returned to collecting, I returned in the digital age. I returned in the age of hobby social media, in the age of hobby identity. And in a moment of inspiration, the Rated Rabbi was born, with a logo, of course, based on that iconic Don Russ Rated Rookie logo. Stickers followed shortly thereafter. I've got one right here on the screen. And you know what? It's a good looking logo. But I'm not really the Rated Rabbi. I'm just Dave. What happens when the things we collect become the way we see ourselves? What happens when the things we collect become the way we want others to see us? Our collections are self-expressions, but our collections are not the self. Welcome to the Rated Rabbi Sports Card Podcast, Season 2, Cards Against Time, Episode 13. Our collections are mandalas. My dry cleaner asked me to remind you, if you would please, to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Who am I to argue with that wizard? Our collections are mandalas, not because they are spiritual, although there is, to me, absolutely an element of spirituality to collecting. Our collections are mandalas not because they are pretty, but to look upon my 2005 finest Frank Gore rookie card, black X Fractor out of 25. Gorgeous, black all around with these red paint, horizontal, like paint brushes, strokes going across the front. A circular refractor in the middle, and Frank Gore in the foreground. Red on black. Unbelievable. Our collections are mandalas not because they are spiritual and not because they are beautiful, although both are true. Our collections are mandalas because they offer temporary, symbolic arrangements of meaning. A collection is a self-portrait of objects, but you see, self-portraits are just one perspective, or if you're Picasso, they are two perspectives, but a self-portrait can never portray the whole person. Your cards are not you. My cards are not me. The most significant project I've ever undertaken in the hobby was a tribute to the 1984 All-Star Game played on July 10th, 1984 at Candlestick Park in San Francisco. My dad took my brother out to the stick. Here's my ticket stub. It's a touchstone. Still love that logo. So about a year or so after I returned to the hobby, I was inspired to create something different, something original. That 80 card, 84 tops PSA graded master set of my own design. I'm guessing if you're listening, you already know this. The American League and the National League starting lineups, the complete rosters of both leagues, the managers, the coaches, the honorary captains, McCovey and Hank Greenberg, first pitches, Carl Hubble, Stu Miller, the announcers, including Al Michaels and Howard Cosell, the set and the cards around it also paid tribute to the pop culture surrounding the broadcast. Huey Lewis in the news sang the national anthem. A Best Defense commercial, which featured Eddie Murphy, gave me a chance to add Eddie Murphy, tying it all together. Caught by the cameraman in the bottom of the first inning in the stands was none other than Joe DiMaggio. DiMaggio is wearing like a blazer, pale yellow sweater. Who wears a blazer to a baseball game? Well, I'll tell you who. Joe DiMaggio, and looks elegant. Come on, it's Joe D. First card was purchased on February 21st, 2022 off of eBay. 84 tops, Tony Gwynn in a PSA 8. Just over 1 year later, February 24th, 2023, I obtained the final card. I'd submitted a Damaso Garcia, and it returned back from PSA a 9. So the master set reconstructed an experience. And the set, well, it created a map of my world on July 10th, 1984. When I finished it, the master set, it enjoyed a central place in the original Dave's Cave in Alexandria, Virginia. I'm going to show you an image right now. That ain't it. That ain't it. That is it. 1984 master set. At this time, it was 80 cards. There's my ticket in the top left. NL lineups, AL lineups, NL benches, AL benches, the coaches on the bottom row. Joe D on the right side, just below my all-star ballot, Greenberg, McCovey, etc. on the right. On the left side, underneath the ticket stub, there's the announcers. There's Al and Howard, Earl Weaver, Jim Palmer, Don Drysdale. So good, man. So good. The OG Dave's Cave in Alexandria was basically an adult version of my high school bedroom. And this master set, it became the center of gravity in that space. Our collections are self-expressions, but they're not the self. As you know, this master set inspired season 1 of the Rated Rabbi Sports Card podcast, where sports cards and pop culture met the 1984 All-Star Game. It ran from March 27th, 2023 until August 13th, 2024. And if the set was a mandala, then the podcast was me walking around it, circling it, pointing to the colors, noticing the small details that made up the whole. And then, without telling anyone other than my wife and my daughter, who I tried to convince, whom I beseech to help me commit pseudocide, faking my own death as a way of ending the show, which she understandably found quite disturbing and refused to participate, but I maintain would have been an audacious stroke of creative genius. Without telling anybody in the hobby, without any forewarning, I ended it. I had said what I had to say. The story was told. I remain satisfied with the ending. You know, beginnings are easy, but endings, well, they're hard, right? We know how to start projects, but unless we're working on a particular checklist, it's much harder to know when something has become complete. A lot of times we will abandon ideas too early, and other times we hold on to them for too long. It's super hard to stick the landing. In fall of 2024, a month after the show concluded, I realized I did not want to be in Alexandria, Virginia anymore. I wanted to go home. And by the grace of God and good timing, there was an incredible opportunity to come back to the Bay Area, to a congregation in Danville, California, and I am safe at home. Coming home meant dismantling the original Dave's Cave back in Alexandria, taking down the master set display as a part of taking apart the cave. Taking apart the master set was a dissolution of the display, but not the collection. Actually, it was at that time that The set reached its perfect number of 84 cards as a PSA return was waiting for me when I arrived in Danville. Here are two of the cards from that PSA return. We've got the 1985 7-Eleven Slurpee Rockstar disc of Huey Lewis and the News with that cool lenticular. There's Huey. There's the News. There's Huey. There's the News. And the other one for Eddie Murphy, this 1984 editorial Dalsa 40 Horas Limite, 48 hours video guay sticker. There's Eddie. It looks like the poster, that drawing, that not quite animated, whatever it is. Beautiful. Eddie flipping the bird. Nick Nolte with that 44 Magnum pointed right at you. I love this. I love this thing. I love it. Oh, I also added this card, a 1990 score, Lights Out at Candlestick, commemorating the earthquake Loma Prieta, October 89. I needed something to represent Candlestick Park. I also added for card 84 an 87 Topps Barry Larkin rookie card, because actually Larkin was on the field as a member of the 84 U.S. Olympic baseball team. Prior to the game, they were kind of like holding rings or something out on the field. Gave me 84 cards. And then I took apart the display, and then I brought it out west, and a new cave emerged. Right now, I am sitting in Dave's Cave West. This cave has fewer items and greater depth. This cave has a rotating display instead of a more permanent saturation. And so my master set was relegated to a box in a bin in the garage. You know, I had an idea and I brought it to life. I told the story, but once I'd finished it, I started to see this collection differently, as something completed. And in this aspect of my life, I also felt complete. Tibetan monks create sand mandalas over days and weeks and grain by grain, using these delicate metal funnels. Monks guide colored sand into intricate geometric patterns with extraordinary patience and precision. I want to show you a mandala right now. Look at that. Oh man, look at those colors, the blues and greens and yellows, and three steady, patient Tibetan monks in their robes, delicately working on that thing. Man. People come to watch these monks build mandalas and temples in public places, in museums. I have a very distinct memory of watching the monks creating one at the De Young Museum in San Francisco back in the day. Now, everyone, every monk, every person watching them create the mandala knows that the mandala will disappear. They're in on it. We're in on it. All of us know where this goes from the start, and that's the point. The mandala's impermanence doesn't reduce the devotion of those who create it. Perhaps actually the impermanence of the mandala helps to deepen it. Once the monks finish the mandala, they begin to dismantle it. It's a highly ritualized act, and they sweep the mandala inward toward the center. Every color, every line, every distinction, all of it swept away. And then they gather the sand and they pour it into moving water, into a river. And it's no longer a mandala. The grains of sand are released and they re-enter the world. The thought first occurred to me when I was taking down the master set in Alexandria. It occurred to me again when I decided not to put the set up in Dave's Cave West. In its own way, the set was a mandala, a complete story, a one of one with perfect symmetry. Each card stood alone, each was bound to all the others. I built the master set, but it's not who I am. Our collections are self-expressions. but they are not the self. It became time to let it go, time to sweep it back into the flowing hobby waters. This past April, I sent 72 of the 84 cards off to Calm Sea. Calm Sea became the river. Those 72 cards have been released back into the hobby. So far, 25 of them have sold. The Mattingly sold, the Fernando sold. I priced everything to sell, and some really, really great stars remain. There's still Ryan Sandberg and Dave Stieb and Tony Gwynn and the rookie card of Darryl Strawberry and Dale Murphy, All-Star Game MVP Gary Carter, the Wizard Ozzie Smith. The cards carry on. The mandala doesn't. It's done. That feels so good to me, a symbolic system that no longer exists as a unified world. Now, it's important to note that a traditional mandala is completely swept away. I have to be honest, I chose not to do that. My wife had a friend in college who doused their every possession with Kingsford lighter fluid and burned it all. Romantic. Yup, very romantic, but a bit dramatic and a tad excessive, and that's not me. Extremes are not me. And the thought of clinging to everything, quite honestly, the thought of holding on to all of it makes me physically uncomfortable. And the theatrical annihilation is just trying too darn hard. It's like, oh, look who's nothing. I didn't have to get rid of all 84 cards to prove to myself that I could let go. Some of the cards, some of the grains of sand remain. I held on to this one. 1948 Leaf Joe DiMaggio. Man, this is like, I never get tired looking at this card. Held on to the 1940 Play Ball Hank Greenberg. This card, 1968 Willie McCovey. This is such a beautiful example. I chose this one because this is the year that Willie Mack won the NL MVP. Still have this one, 1935 Diamond Stars, Carl Hubbell. Love how he's kind of kicking back with his elbows on the batting practice protective screen. Held on to the 1960 Don Drysdale, the Eddie Murphy, the Huey. Absolutely kept this one, the 1984 Topps Traded, not the rookie, but still awesome. 1984 Topps Traded Dwight Gooden, because when Gooden entered and struck out the side, that was the emotional apex of the game. Struck out the side, trotted off, walked into the dugout, long shadows across Candlestick, walking from sunlight to shadow. The legends of the game on the NL, hands extended in congratulations. I kept lights out at Candlestick. Some of these cards survived the sweeping, some because they're beautiful, others I kept because they're valuable, others still I still kept because they carry the emotional center of the story. Two of the cards that I did not send to ComC and I did not keep, I gave them actually as gifts. I gave the 84 Topps Ricky Henderson to Adam Kay. I gave the 1994 action-packed Howard Cosell to West Coast Jewish Chris. They are beloved friends. They are my two best friends in the hobby. Our text thread is, some days our text thread is the reason to have a phone. And giving them those cards meant a redistribution of meaning into friendship. There's actually one other card from the set that I do want to give to someone, but I don't know how to get in touch with them. On the roster of the NL coaches from the 84 All-Star Game was bullpen coach John Van Ornum, shown here on a 1980 Giants police set that I must have got at a giveaway at Candlestick when I was 9 years old. This 80 police set John Van Ornum is a pop one, because honestly, who in their right minds would ever grade this card for any other reason? What is John Van Ornum's claim to fame? Why does any of this matter? So I am a fan of the 1959 television show Home Run Derby, shot at Wrigley Field, the other Wrigley Field in Los Angeles. All the hitters from the day were there: Willie Mays, Mickey Mantle, Hank Aaron, Ernie Banks, Eddie Matthews. For a long time, I've had a dream of adding just a single card from the Home Run Derby set. It's a little late for me to get in on that. It doesn't have to be a big one. The one I would actually love to have is Bay Area legend, Jackie Jensen. Got a thing for Jackie Jensen. Anyway, John Van Ornum. Why John Van Ornum? John Van Ornum, if you don't know the show, it's essentially these sluggers taking batting practice like Home Run Derby. This is the original Home Run Derby. John Van Ornum is the catcher on the show. And so, although he and I have never, ever met, I know that Mike Petty is a fan of the Home Run Derby show and a notable collector of the Home Run Derby set. And I would like to gift this card to Mike. If you're listening and you know Mike Petty, please put Petty and me in touch. Please help us to connect. I'd like to send this to him as a thank you. He's kind of the Loki of the hobby, and I appreciate him for that. What belongs to a continuing story? That's a harder question than total erasure. Anyone can cling to everything. Anyone can destroy everything. The hard thing is deciding what remains. Discernment is a hard task. This applies beyond cards. It applies to our careers, to our friendships, to versions of ourselves, to public identities, to old beliefs and dreams. How do we know what belongs to a completed chapter and what belongs to the continuing story? To be honest, I'm not quite sure that I know. Truth be told, I will probably let go of this 1960 Don Drysdale in a PSA 7. It's a beautiful car. Excellently centered left to right, maybe a touch low. Got that awesome rough cut on top. Super cool car, but I don't know that I need it anymore. And this one, 1940 play ball Hank Greenberg in a PSA 5. I will let go of this car as soon as I find my 1934 Greenberg rookie card. And once I find that, I'll sell this version, this example, to help fund it. Even the surviving grains are impermanent. Like mandalas, our collections are self-expressions, but they are not the self. They and we are just temporary. We don't need to hold on so tightly to cards or the identities we construct through them. I built the 84 All-Star Game Master set. I dismantled it. I distilled it into a small handful of cards. The collection changed, but the meaning remains even though the form is gone. Before I conclude, I want to thank Iowa Dave Schwartz, who last Friday concluded the Shallow End podcast. Dave, thank you so much for the myriad ways you have enriched our hobby and enhanced my life. Your stepping away, when you did and how you did it, reminded me of the Irish blessing for longevity. Always leave the bed a little sleepy, always leave the table a little hungry, and always leave the bar a little thirsty. That's all for me. Be kind to others. Be kind to yourself. And remember, this is just a ride. So long for now.